It's time to hear the story, make the connection, learn the lesson, and gain the wisdom. Are you ready? Let's get charged and be changed. The Sister Speak Brother Break Show. Conversations on grace, healing, and deliverance. This is Marcy Bush. Come on, let's journey together. Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Sister Speak Brother Break Show. Today, I have someone that I love dearly, who is our special guest, and we are just here to talk about her journey. There are so many different parts of it that I'm sure I don't even know, but I have known her for the majority of her life, and always looked at it, thought she was the cutest little thing, and always just loved the power of her presence. And so I'm going to learn more about her today, as you do too. She's a daughter, a mother, an auntie, a whole lot of stuff, a wife, and on and on and on and on. But just please be attentive and learn something from this journey of this lady we call Laura Ann Wilson Johnson. So thank you for joining us today, Laura.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. So we're just going to start at the beginning. One of the things that I love, I think is so unique, so special, is that you were named after your mama, like boys are named after their daddy. You just don't have a junior on there.
Right.
So growing up, I know I would always hear them call you Lil Laura. Mm-hmm. So tell us about Lil Laura. How would you describe Lil Laura?
Oh my. I would describe Lil Laura as being full of energy, full of excitement. I grew up already exposed to a lot of family, you know, and so I've always just been around a lot of movement. Dad being a pastor, mom being a choir director, and uncles being pastors, and grandmother being a singer, and siblings being on the choir. And so I just grew up in movement. So
tell me, what is one of your first major memories of something that forged your relationship with God? Like early on, what made you be like hooked?
Oh, I think it was we went to Bobby Jones Gospel in Tennessee. Our parents, they loaded us up on a bus and we all went to Tennessee, Bobby Jones Gospel. And I think it was I just remember a bunch of people there being there. I remember I found $100. I think that did it for me. I was like, look at God. I think that might have been it.
Lord,
you know, just in the right place at the right time, and I knew God was a provider. I had to be like 8, and I realized that God was a provider. Lord. No, but I don't know. I think it started happening for me there. But yeah, I remember how excited all of the children were. We were called the Shinettes at the time. And I remember the guys, my brothers and cousins, Joseph, Terrell, and Tim and Jeremiah, they were like close enough on stage to John Key. That's when we got it, like, you know, we started getting, I guess, close enough to seeing what major artists and everything looked like. But aside from being close to John Key, who was one of our choir's biggest inspiration, I remember like a move taking place and everybody was just like crying and just feeling the spirit. And it was just and we were very, very expressive. Our parents were very expressive, but it hit the kids and it was like, man, that was good. I don't know what we was crying for, but that felt real good. And so I wanted that. I just wanted to continue to experience that. And we started to, we continued it even in schools and like got suspended and wrote up for things like that. But yeah, but I think I had to be like because my dad was there, and I remember seeing a video of us at Bobby Jones Gospel, and my dad was. I love watching my dad march, but he was marching, and you could see the little girl right beside him, looking up at him, imitating, and it was me, and I just it was that moment, like I was like, I like this, I really, really like this. So yeah, but if I have to think about experience that made me like truly like have to hold on, and I would have to say that was 1998 when I lost my mom.
Okay. Yeah. So that actually is the next thing.
Okay.
Because if my memory serves me right, your mom fought cancer twice. Right?
Yeah.
And so do you remember what it was like during those times with her fight?
So now that I'm older, I can recognize or put knowledge to what I saw. I remember her coming home at times with this white cup filled with napkins, and it was exactly what I had when I carried my children. And so one of the signs of her being sick was she couldn't swallow her saliva. She couldn't swallow it. And so I remember that. I remember one day she got home from work and she opened the door, and the second she opened the door, you could tell she was driving, trying to hold her vomit. And so she opened the door and just leaned over. I remember that. I remember her walking out of church services at times, and like, you know, I hear that my mom was clumsy. I hear she was clumsy and very goofy at times, but I remember her falling more times than the norm. I remember those. I remember standing in the bathroom one time and watching her comb her hair, and her hair was just falling out, and I didn't know why it was falling out. I didn't, not at that age, but I just remember watching. I'm like, man, mommy losing a lot of hair. But I just remember those things.
About how were you? Do you remember how you were the first time? Or the second?
So the second time, it had to be around like age 10 and 11 that I remember. The first time she was diagnosed with cancer, I was 1.
Really?
So yeah, I didn't. I heard that it was a year after I was born.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And you know what? I didn't even think about but she got ill with you, right?
Yeah. So, and I'll be honest, I think I need to do that one day. I need to sit and like ask, because I do remember asking, was I a preemie? And they didn't say that I was a premature birth. But the only thing that I remember them saying is that my mom's blood pressure got really high. And when they got to the hospital, all of the fluid in the amniotic fluid had leaked out of her already. And so by the time she got to the hospital, they didn't know exactly how long I had already been in her womb without the fluid. And so when the doctors, and I don't know this either. I don't know if I was born through a cesarean or if I was a vaginal delivery. Those things I don't know. But I do know that they said her blood pressure was really high. And at that moment, it was, we can either save you or we can save her, but we can't save both. Like somebody's not going to make it. And so, and if I did survive, these were the odds that was against me. She would be deaf, brain damage, and blind. And so.
And so the devil is a liar.
He is a liar.
Yes, he is. Mama lived. Mama lived. And ain't none of that going on.
No, my sister tried to get a check from me early on, but we'll have to talk about that later. Yeah.
Oh, Lord. But she wanted a check.
Yeah, she wanted a check. So, and I get onto her now because of what we experienced most recently. And I say, you see what you wished on me?
Oh, Lord.
She be like, don't do that. Okay, well, I am. But,
see, don't do it. Don't do it.
I like to mess with her.
And so the first time your mom was able to get back, given a clean bill of health.
Yeah, yeah.
The second time, she was rewarded with heaven.
Yeah. Yeah.
How old were you then?
I was 12.
Okay.
I was 12 when that happened. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember going to the hospital, MCG at the time. And I remember the smell of the hospital still.
Okay.
But I remember going, and it was February the 26th of 1998. It was the day after her birthday. She called us all at the hospital, and she told us that she was just ready. She was tired. She was tired of fighting, and she was ready to go. She was verbal at the time. She was able to tell us like exactly what it was that, you know, how she was feeling, and that she didn't want to be here anymore. And so she called us, which looked like the CSRA at the time, to the hospital, and we all was there like just waiting, like she about to leave us. And she talked to everybody that came to the hospital that day. And I remember going, there's 2 times that I remember going into the hospital. I remember one time we were sitting at the foot of her bed, and we sang a song, and I don't remember the song, but she was going like this, and she was directing, because that's who she was. She was a director. And it was at the end of that time when she talked to all of her children. She talked to every single last one of us. And I can't tell you what she said to everyone. I just know, I remember what she said to me. And the last thing I remember her saying to me was, be strong. And so I took that, and I took it to heart. And so I became what I consider this strong girl. And so that was, I think that might have been February 26th. And so everybody came in, and she talked to the doctors. My mom was very prophetic. She talked to the doctors. She talked to the children, her aunts, her uncles, her brothers, her parents. And that day, everybody thought like that was it.
And so in talk to, not just like, hey baby, how you doing? But talk to as in, specific. This is the word of the Lord, basically. I think that's, you hear Uncle Junior Bishop talk about it all the time, how my mom left instructions with him, like, take care of my babies, which I think is one of the hardest things to have to hear somebody tell you, because they ready to go. Like, these take care of what used to be my responsibility. And I got 7 of them. Now they're yours. Like, what? But that's what she did. And I don't know. I look back at it now, and I'm like, man, that's who. You got to be real tired to say you ready to let 7 children go. Yikes. Yeah. So. And not only real tired, but real finished.
Real finished.
Real finished.
Real finished. Real fulfilled. Really
because
fulfilled.
The way she loved y'all.
Yeah.
To be able to say, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
It is finished.
Yeah.
That takes strength.
Yeah.
That's sacrifice.
Yeah.
So when your mom passed, you said you were 12.
I was 12.
How did life change for you?
It didn't take its time. I'll say that. It didn't take its time to change. It was like immediately. The second we got the call, I'll say this, before we even got the call or the confirmation that she had finally transitioned, I remember going into her room at least one more time. And this time I went in, and she was not verbal with me. She looked at me, and she held her hand out. And now, actually, I walked in, and she looked at me, and I turned to go back out because I just wanted to see my mom. And I don't know if I spoke to her. I don't know if I said anything to her, but all I know is she didn't say anything to me. And I can't remember if it scared me for a moment or anything, but I know I turned to leave. And when I turned to leave, I heard her make a sound, and it was like, And when I looked back at her, she was holding her, she was holding her hand over the bed, and she was just holding her hand out. And I turned back, and I looked at her, and I walked back to the bed, and I held her hand, and she didn't say anything, but she just held my hand. I later found out that my mom suffered a stroke. And so that's when she became nonverbal. And but it was painful for her to even use the bathroom, release herself. And in that moment, I don't know if that's what it was, but my uncle Huey is actually who was able to tell me like what she wanted at that time. And I don't know if I can say I found comfort in knowing I gave her that comfort in the moment, or if she just knew that her baby was there and needed her for a moment and she tried to give me who she was. I don't know, but I sit here and I think about it now. It's just little things that I always remember, and I hold on to that last reach. And whew, so where I was home, laying in the bed that Saturday, because she passed away on a Saturday. It was March the 21st of 1998.
Okay.
And I remember when they came in the room, I think it was maybe Nez or Michelle. I know it was an older sibling because I was the youngest, aside from Travis. But an older sibling that came in and that simply said, "Y'all, Mama passed."
Okay.
And I remember looking and staring and saying, "For real?" And yeah, Mama passed, and that was it.
Okay.
I didn't cry. I didn't act out or anything like that. I accepted it.
Okay.
I believe I did. I accepted it. And I can't remember if we went back to the hospital that day or anything, but that day, everything changed.
Okay.
Like everything in our house changed, everything in our relationships as it related to our family, like everything changed. Everything changed. And not so much for the better. I think everything changed and it got worse. It's like you lose your mom and it like this is the worst that could happen, but then you're living and it's getting worse, more worse. Is worser or worse? Because if it is, that's what it was. It got worser and worser. It was just, it went downhill for a very long time.
Okay.
And in a very dark way.
Okay.
I don't know, the relationship with my dad and my siblings, everything just got difficult to manage because the person that managed it all was no longer there. Her funeral, I remember going to a funeral, and we walked in the church and we walked down that long aisle at Zion Hill, and I don't think I've ever realized that Zion Hill's aisle was so long until that day. And we went and I viewed her for the very last time. I remember her wig she had on, because she was wearing wigs at the time because she had lost all her hair. I remember her white dress, and I viewed her body and I sat down. I still hadn't cried since they told me my mom had died. I still hadn't cried. I viewed her and I sat down, and my sister Michelle, she put her hand on my shoulder, which made me turn around. I turned around and I looked at her, and the only thing she did was smile. And it was the smile that I saw when I saw my mom. Okay. And it was that moment I cried. Okay. It was that moment I was able to grieve the fact that I had lost my mom. Okay. It was two things. It was her showing me that, telling me that it was actually, it was okay, and that I would be okay. And so, yeah, that's what the funeral was. But the rest of it was difficult. And so you were 12. Yeah. The youngest girl of 7, you said? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so I know the dynamic. And I learned it through experiencing death, is that each person that is extracted from that, everything, the entire dynamic changes. Because whatever position that person held, it's no longer filled. Right. And so everything is moving. Yeah. It has no choice but to move. Yeah. And navigating can be so difficult sometimes. So how were you able to process the loss beyond the funeral? Like, were you able to pour yourself into anything in particular to help you get through that time? And what you poured yourself into, was it positive? Was it negative? Like, where'd you find yourself? So I was in the 7th grade when that happened. And I was in band, and I was also a part of, I think I was a part of the community choir at the time, Total Praise. I was also the minister of music at a church. I was at Mount Zion Baptist Church in Beach Island, and so I was playing there. I think ultimately what what my dad did was kept us busy. And just kept us almost like just trying to continue to operate as usual. And I think we did it as much as we could, but it still changed. So much changed. I was in middle school. I was in middle school, so I can't. Nothing drastic as far as me having to turn or do something differently to maneuver through life. There was nothing different that happened as it relates to that. It just something different happened as my passion, like as it relates to my passion and my desire to do it. It wasn't as present as it was when she was living. And I think it's because everything changed around us. Like 6 months after my mom passed, I say this all the time. My sister Inez was grown when I got here. She's always been grown. So I don't know the child Inez because she was 9 when I was born. So by the time I got 5, she was 14. And so by the time I got to middle school, she had already graduated. And so, but she moved. She ended up moving out 6 months after my mom passed. And so I'm still 12. And then a year after my mom passed, my oldest sister moved out. And so now I'm 13 and I'm growing up in the house with my brothers and my daddy. So that was a lot. A lot of change happened for me. 13, I was in high school. I started 9th grade. Did I start 9th grade when I was 12? Maybe I was 13.
13 or 14 usually.
So it was 13. Because I graduated when I was 17. So I started high school and I got exposed to a lot more in my high school days, and I got exposed to it without the assistance or guidance of a strong female presence. I got exposed to it with a majority of male influence behind me. And so I didn't have the comfort of having that one person to go and talk to or get guidance from. I didn't have that. And so I lost my virginity in 9th grade. And it must have been horrible because I didn't do anything again.
Lord Jesus.
or it scared me half to death.
Well, thank you, Lord.
It was either that or it scared me half to death. Like,
right.
But I remember, and I remember when it happened. I asked my dad if I could go to a church service, and at this time things weren't good. I asked him, could we go to a church service, and he told me no. And I asked him that same night, could I go to a party, and he told me yes. And so that night, that's what happened.
Gotcha. And so, running, not knowing you were running, just trying to find, just trying to find something. I wanted to know, how would you complete this sentence? My teen years were.
Teen is from 13 to 19. Oh, hell.
And so, tell me what made it hell. And I know, like you said, even as a young girl, and I'm learning God is teaching me that you can know the facts, but if you don't, like, sometimes an adult recalls what happened, but not realizing the impact it had on the child that you were. And then, so sometimes, like, we don't realize the way that we've navigated or what pushed us, but looking back, what, even as the child, you can tell me about grown Laura if you want to, but the mentality you were in as a child, and feeling like hell, what were some of those things?
I experienced a lot of hurt. So when my mom died, I don't think the level of pain was like somebody, like, it wasn't so much like she left me, because I wasn't the only one that was left. I had my sisters and I had my dad. But what left was the amount of care and comfort and security she provided to not just me, but to everybody.
She was such a nurturer.
She was such a nurturer, and she was so much to the community, and you felt that. And so when she died, that disappeared, like, for everyone. And I think what became painful, more painful than her leaving, was nobody replaced that. And it's not that you can, but nobody felt like took her place, filled those shoes. Not for me, not for the little girl that was 12. And who I thought would have replaced that. I hate to say left me, but it's almost like they left me. And I tried to follow behind them. I did. I tried to run behind them, and I couldn't, because I was a child. I pat my bags. I tried to leave. I wasn't trying to necessarily leave my brothers or my dad. I was just trying to leave what wasn't caring and securing me. There was a lot of, I heard a lot of painful words, and it was presented as at times that like it seemed like a lot of it became my fault, or not even just my fault, or our fault. Like, while we were here and why things were turning out the way that it was, instead of us being provided comfort in knowing that you didn't cause this and it's going to be okay, it almost started feeling like, and nobody necessarily had to say it, but it started feeling like, okay, the reason why you're here is because you're not doing right, and you're making it difficult. We could just, if you just listen to what I say, we can keep going. I remember one time I expressed to an uncle of mine who was also a pastor in this community, whose name I will leave nameless. But I remember saying to him, I'm sorry, in the household, I was like, I miss being around my sisters. Like, I want my sisters. And the response was, their son lived in a house full of girls, and he fine. And I'm like, but that's how he grew up. This ain't how I grew up. Like this, I had at least 12 years with them. That's who I know, or whatever. And I'm not trying to leave that, but I'm a girl. And so I became a tomboy. I became real rough, and I tried out for football in middle school. I wanted to play with the boys, and still just hearing my mom, the last thing she said to me was, "Be strong." And so I became the hurt that I had been experiencing.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you've been blessed by today's show, feel free to let us know. And if you'd like to sow into this ministry, become a sponsor, or contact us, you can reach us at 803-221-0169. Or you can email us at thessbbshow@gmail.com. Let's continue this journey together.